This segment is brought to you by the Underrated Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our brand new segment of Inside the Mind presented by the Underrated Podcast. It's kind of weird because we're doing a brand new segment where I bring on different non-sports related guests, such as actresses like we have on now, entertainers, singers, that kind of stuff, upcoming people who you guys will maybe enjoy in the future. Now, for our very first guest on to our brand new segment, she's the star of Netflix's comedy series, The Big Show, and she is an upcoming actress, Lily Brooks O'Brien. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first episode.
Yeah, no problem. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And it's kind of crazy. Again, I told you off camera, but it's crazy to have somebody like you who is a cast of a show that I enjoy. I just kind of reached out and I had very low hopes that you would respond, but now you're here, now you're talking, now you're on my show, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I love coming on to podcasts and just talking about the show and my career and stuff like that. It's just really fun.
So obviously times are pretty tough right now. Everybody's at home. You're obviously not recording for the show, but how are you kind of holding up maybe in the house or without having that kind of love for acting?
Yeah, well, for me, it's been going pretty good. My whole family's been trying to kind of keep busy and stay positive during this time. A way that we've been kind of, I guess, coping is sometimes we'll take drives down to the Pacific Coast Highway and just look at the mountains and the ocean, and it's so pretty. And over these last few weekends, we went to the beach one weekend and social distance from everyone, of course, but it was really great to just get out and kind of see the ocean, and it was really awesome.
It's cool because I actually followed you on Instagram before this with the actual podcast account, and I actually saw that live video with you with Juliet who is also a cast member on The Big Show. And I thought I'd reach out, again, low hopes, but now you're here. But like I said, you are starring on The Big Show. Can you tell the viewers who may not know what that is, what it's kind of about?
Yeah, of course. So The Big Show is a Netflix family comedy about WWE wrestler The Big Show and his family. So I play Mandy White, his middle daughter, and the show is about it's about normal family life and what it's like living with a WWE wrestler that's 7 feet tall, and how just family life can be really funny, and it's about the ups and downs of being in a big family, and there's just so many incredible aspects of the show. There's a little bit of something for everyone in the family. So there's the wrestler, The Big Show, and then there's my character Mandy, she's very independent, and she's running for lower school president. So she's very her idols are RBG, AOC, and Leslie Knope. So she's super inspired by powerful women, and I find my character Mandy so inspiring, and I've had so many people reach out to me saying how my character is their favorite because she's so inspiring to young women who want to change the world, and that made me really happy. But yeah, the show's it's just a funny family comedy that the whole family can watch together, and especially during COVID-19, it's a great show to watch with your family just because everyone is stuck at home together, so you can watch the show and just bond, which is really awesome. And I found that a lot of families have been doing that, and it makes me really happy.
Is that what you do with your family? Is that an opportunity to watch the show together?
Yeah, so when it first came out, we all stayed up until midnight, which was not normal for myself. I'm normally the kind of girl that goes to sleep at 10 o'clock, but I stayed up until midnight. I took a nap that day, and we stayed up and we just watched 3 episodes, and halfway through I was just I need to go to sleep. But then we woke up the next morning and watched a lot of it, and it's been an incredible show for us to watch together, and it's made me really happy to just see that my family has enjoyed it as well as so many other families.
And is it crazy to see yourself, like a character as yourself on it? Is it crazy to see yourself on a TV show?
It is really crazy to see myself on a Netflix TV show, and being able to go onto Netflix and search up The Big Show and see my face. That's a total dream come true for me. I would have never thought that this would have happened, especially at such a young age for me. Obviously, it was a huge dream of mine. I've always dreamed to be in a Netflix show, and I'm so happy that it's happened. And it's crazy to see myself on a TV show. I haven't been the biggest fan of watching myself on a TV show just because when you're an actor, you're always the biggest. You're always your biggest critic. So like I'm always kind of critiquing things that I could have done better. But I feel like for this one, I felt like I enjoyed it, and I just let myself enjoy it and not criticize myself, which was really awesome. And I felt like this was something that I was really proud of.
And were you the type of person to maybe not tell your friends that you were going to be on the show and say, oh, yeah, check out this show. It's kind of funny. And then you see there and you get a ton of texts like, oh, my God, you're on the show. Are you that type of person that doesn't tell anybody, wait for a surprise maybe?
Yeah, so I do, of course, like I tell a lot of my closer friends, but I didn't really tell a lot of my like not as close friends until it was like really, really like close to the time. And I was like, hey guys, I have this new Netflix show that's coming out on the 6th, and I was wondering if you guys could just like watch it. And yeah, so I told a lot of my friends, and we got together and we did like a Netflix party on the computer, and that was really awesome. And I'm glad that I could share this big moment of my life with all of my friends. Even though we couldn't be in person, I'm glad that we could still do it over FaceTime and Zoom and Netflix party, which is really awesome.
And then, so coming back to where you first auditioned, I don't know if it's maybe an audition, but coming from that moment, did you ever think that you would be on the show or here right now?
I go into a lot of my auditions just thinking my goal for an audition is just to book the room, because you're not always going to be great for the role. You're not always going to fit what they're looking for, and that's totally fine. But my goal is to always book a spot in the casting director's mind, so that if there is ever a role that they think that I'm great for, that they'll call me in for it and maybe I can book it. But for this one, I felt really, really great about it. The casting director, Julie Ashton, was incredibly sweet and just made me feel really great about myself after the audition. So I felt pretty confident going out of the audition. And she had told me that there was a callback date, which I was leaving the day after the callback date. And I left Los Angeles, went back to New York City without a callback, which was kind of upsetting, but I went in with it, and I was like, I felt good in front of the casting director, so I'm proud of myself for that. And I just went on with my life, and I went back to New York City, and a bit later, my mom got a call from my manager saying that they wanted me in Los Angeles the next day. But I was living in New York City, which is all the way across the country, so we decided to do a self-tape the next morning. I did my self-tape, and about a week and a half later, I was at camp. It was it was actually my 13th birthday, and my uncle came down and told me that I was in the final 2 for the Big Show. And then I went to Los Angeles and I did the test and the chemistry read, and about, I don't know, it was like a day and a half later, I found out that I had booked it.
That's awesome. And so is the show based in LA, or is it I've heard it's in Tampa. Is it in LA?
The show is based out of Tampa, Florida. We filmed it in Los Angeles, though. We filmed on Paramount Studios, which was really awesome. Fun fact, we actually got to film in Studio 25, and our dressing rooms are in something called the Lucy Bungalow, which was really cool because, Lucille Ball got, she had built this on Paramount Studios so that she didn't have to walk from a trailer all the way to the studio, and it was super easy for her. So we got to have our dressing rooms and our schoolrooms in the Lucy Bungalow, which is really awesome. And I got to be in dressing room number 1, which was really awesome. And it was just a really amazing experience because I felt like it was really cool that I was able to be on the same studio that Lucille Ball was on, which was really awesome.
And then now, so you play a character, Mandy, the middle child. I know you went a little bit into who she is. Can you go a little bit more in depth, and how is she compared to yourself in real life compared to screen?
Yeah, of course. So Mandy White is the middle daughter of the Big Show, or Paul White. And I'd have to describe Mandy as she's a very ambitious overachiever. Which is kind of like me. Mandy, when she sets her mind to something, she works so hard until she gets it. And that's a lot like myself. If I have my mind set on something, I work super hard until I get it. And I feel like me and Mandy are very similar in those ways. Mandy's Mandy's idols are RBG, AOC, and Leslie Knope. And when I was going into the auditions for this character, I watched a lot of Parks and Recreation, and I watched the documentary with RBG, and I was super inspired by that, and it helped me kind of get into my character. But Mandy the best way to explain her is she works really hard, she's ambitious, she's an overachiever, and she just wants to make the world a better place, and she wants to make her mark on the world.
And is that the only role you auditioned for? Was that like the specific role, or did you maybe audition for Lola, the oldest daughter? Did you audition for that role, or is it just?
Yeah, no, I only auditioned for Mandy White. I had seen a lot of other people going in for Lola, and I was like, okay, so I'm just going in for Mandy. Maybe they don't see me as a Lola. But I later found out that they had wanted someone who was a legal 18 adult, which I'm 13, so that's not something that I can do. But yeah, I went in for Mandy. When I first went in for Mandy, the name of the character wasn't Mandy because they were trying to just cover everything up so that if someone went in for an audition and then later on it came out, they wouldn't know that it was this show that they were auditioning for. Which they do that a lot for auditions, but at first the name wasn't Mandy, and then when I got into the final two, when I got for the second callback, the name was actually Mandy, and then it kept on being Mandy, which was really awesome. But yeah, I only auditioned for Mandy, which Mandy's a really great character for me. I'd have to say Mandy's basically me, but like 10 times like more dramatic. But yeah, Mandy's a really awesome character, and I'm really glad that I was able to play her.
And now the show is based around the Big Show, or Paul White, as he's known as in real life. He's obviously huge, as you said earlier. But what was it like meeting him, being 7 foot and just massive for the first time?
Yeah, so the first time that I met the Big Show, or Paul White, he looked a lot smaller than he was because he was sitting down in a chair. And then he went to shake my hand, and he stood up out of the chair, and I just kept looking up, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so tall. And but he was such a sweet person. I went into the audition like watching all of his wrestling videos, and he looks really scary and kind of intimidating, but when I first met him, he is the sweetest person ever, and he's definitely a big teddy bear, which he's like the sweetest person ever. And once we got to know each other, like we all became like a big family, which is really awesome. And he treats us like we're his own daughters, which is an incredible experience, and I couldn't have asked for a better set family.
And you released on your Instagram when the show first came out, and the caption was, the world's biggest dad is about to be outmatched, which makes sense. But what did you like? Would you say it has been outmatched right now?
I mean, so the whole like premise of the show is that the Big Show is coming, and he's being a dad, and he has 3 daughters, or 2 daughters. No, wait, 3 daughters. Sorry, I had to math there for a second, and a wife. So it's 3 girls, and then the Big Show, who's like a big wrestler, and it's kind of like different having 3 daughters and being a wrestler, but. Yeah, I definitely say that he's been outmatched for sure.
And so what do you have to do to prepare for the character that you play, and how long usually are the set days, and how long are you actually acting for?
Yeah, I love answering this question just because it's such an interesting like thing, or at least I find it interesting. But yeah, so our days were normally 9.5 hours, or they have to be 9.5 hours or less, because since I'm a minor, our days are a bit different than the adults, but we also have to do school while we're on set, and then we have an hour lunch. So we're working as much as we can, and then doing school, and then lunch, of course, which is like my favorite part. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, so I prepare for Mandy the best way for me to prepare for Mandy is just watch a lot of clips of Leslie Knope. And like I said before, I watched the documentary with RBG, and that really helped me get into the mindset of Mandy White. And another thing that really helped me get into the character is just rereading my scripts over and over again. And I do this thing where I break down each line, and I think, okay, what is she thinking? And why is she saying this? what is the goal behind this line? Because you're not just going to say a line that doesn't have any meaning behind it. So the best way to kind of figure out why she's saying this line is to figure out the meaning behind it. And yeah, that's just something that I do as an actor for all of my scripts, which is really helpful. But to go back to the answer of how long are our days, so 9.5 hours. Monday through Wednesday we rehearse, and then Thursday and Friday we do filming. Thursday we film without an audience, and Friday we film with the audience, which is my favorite day. I love filming with an audience. It really helps me, I guess, get into my character, because I feel like with an audience, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like there's so much energy coming back at me with like the jokes, like they laugh, and it kind of helps actors kind of feel, okay, there's so much energy in the audience. It just really helps. But I was a theater kid, so the audience is something that I was kind of used to, and it was really helpful for me to go from theater to film with still the audience aspect there, and of course the camera, which is really awesome. And yeah, I feel like the audience was really helpful for me.
And does the audience sometimes make you nervous when you're acting, like having all those people watching you and like judging every move that you make?
So I wasn't normally super nervous for the audience. The first time that we did the live audience show, I was a little bit nervous, because in this I had kind of a little bit, the first scene that we did, I had a huge chunk of line, and it was something that I kept messing up in rehearsals, and I was like, I don't want to mess this up. But I feel like once I got out into the audience, I felt really comfortable, and I felt like they were there to support us, which was really awesome. And yeah, after the first one, I was like, this is really awesome. I'm having fun. Yeah.
And not only does your character Mandy have a very specific mindset, she also has fallen in love with her opposing character, which he's I think it's lower school president, I think you said, and he's also running for it. His name's Taylor Swift, and they have a pretty good relationship going into. Obviously, I don't want to spoil too much of the show for people that aren't watching this, but is that something that that you didn't expect going into the show?
That was a huge shock to me. Really, really, really big shock. I went into this, I didn't really know much about the storyline, but I knew a lot about her character, and I never, ever would have expected her to go into this and go into like being lower school president or I guess running for lower school president, and end up with a relationship with her opposing, I guess, with the opposing person. I'm not trying to spoil too much, but I remember when I read the script where the big, I guess, reveal happened, and my mom actually read it first, and she was like, oh my God, Lily, go to page blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. I went to it, I read all the way down to it, and I was like, what? So I was so confused, and I was like, oh my God, what the heck? And I was honestly nervous, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely nerve-wracking, but if you guys want to know what we're talking about, please go watch The Big Show if you haven't already. And yeah, it was a big shock to me for sure. Yeah.
And is television kind of sitcoms what you've kind of been working for, or something that you want to pursue in the future, not only being on The Big Show, but also maybe going into a movie star or going into movies?
Yeah, so when I first became an actress, or I guess a film and TV actress, I mostly was doing dramatic and like dramatic movies, dramatic short films, and stuff like that. That was more something that I was a bit more comfortable with. I felt like when I went into acting classes and stuff like that, and we did comedy stuff, I was always really nervous. I don't know, I felt like comedy wasn't really something that I was super good at. And I decided one day that I wanted to work on comedy and kind of get to the point where I could audition for comedy and feel comfortable. And I went into an acting class. I started doing comedy, and I was not super great at it at first. And I have an incredible acting coach named Katie Polam, and she has helped me get to the point where I feel comfortable in a comedy scene, or in a comedy audition, or in this case, a comedy TV show. And I would have never thought that I would be in a comedy or a sitcom on Netflix. I always pictured myself doing a dramatic like movie or a dramatic film or a dramatic TV show, but I would love to do more dramatic stuff, but I feel like comedy is something that I've really enjoyed doing, and I've come so far in my comedy acting, and I'm really proud of myself for that.
And growing up at a young age, was acting always something that you aspired to do, or is it something else and you just kind of got into acting?
Yeah, so I've always been a performer. Ever since I could talk, I was singing Taylor Swift songs, and I was miming, playing the guitar, and I was a performer for sure. And I never really thought about acting until I was about 5 years old. But I used to be a baton twirler before I started acting. I was a dancer. I was a singer. I was all of those performing aspects I was doing. And what was I? I was about 5 and a half, and my mom took me to go see a play. And in the middle of intermission, I was like, "Mom, I want to do that." And she was like, "Okay." She was not sure what to do. My mom was not an acting mom, so she kind of had to figure it out as she was going. But I did some theater stuff. The first role that I played was a bunny rabbit in Sleeping Beauty, which was an incredible first role. But I kept doing theater and like theater camps and small roles in theater. And when I was about 8 years old, I was like, "Mom, I want to do film and TV. Can I do film and TV?" She kept coming up with excuses because she was not sure how to do this. And one day my dad was like, "Mom, you got to figure this out because she's not going to stop asking." So my mom figured it out. She got me into background work, which is like the lowest level of like TV acting. It's just like what you do when you're trying to figure out if you really want to do it. And I did two background shows. And on the second one that I did, a director came up to my mom and asked my mom if I had an agent. At the moment, I did not. And he was like, "She shouldn't be doing background work. She should be auditioning for real roles." And the director gave my mom a couple of names for agents, and my mom went with one of them. I auditioned for one agent, and I signed with that agent, and I ended up booking a role in a movie a few months later, which was really awesome. The movie is called Shark Lake, and I played one of the lead roles, which was an incredible experience, and I'm so glad that I ended up doing the movie.
And it's kind of ironic that you grew up singing Taylor Swift songs and then now playing with a character named Taylor Swift.
It really, really is. I remember thinking, I was like, "Oh my God, his name is Taylor Swift." I thought it was hysterical, but I was like, I was a huge Taylor Swift fan. I love all of her country music and some of her pop music. I'm a bigger fan of her country music than I am more of her pop music, but that's mostly because I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I grew up listening to country music, and I love country music so much. But yeah, it's definitely ironic that I like grew up loving Taylor Swift, and now I'm in a show where there's a character named Taylor Swift.
And were there any other than obviously the working around with your mom and getting into your first booking with acting? Were there any other maybe ups or downs with becoming an actress?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't really think about it when I first like started acting, but it's a really tough business for sure. You go into it and you're super excited, and I love acting so much, but there are definitely times where you can get your spirits down because you keep going in for auditions and keep going in, but you don't book anything. And it's so frustrating. And there are definitely times where you're going to think, I just want to quit. I can't do it. I'm not booking anything. I can't do this. This isn't for me. Something I had to learn and I had to keep growing on is to not give up and not get mad at myself or be disappointed if I didn't book a role, because and something that me and my mom came up with was I need to book the room, because it made me feel like I was working towards booking something, and there was an end goal, which was booking something so that I could be on set, because auditions are the hard part. Our auditions are the job, but when you go in and actually are on set, it's an incredible experience, and you're just having fun the entire time. So auditions are definitely the hard part for me, and I just had to learn to kind of never give up on myself or never give up on acting, because I knew that one day something would come. And, I must have gotten about 400, 500 no's in my life. I've gone in for like 400 auditions, and most of them I got no's for. I got rejected, but I still felt confident because I went in for those casting directors. I'm sure I impressed them, and I did my best work. So I just had to keep going, and one day I booked the Big Show, and that was the big yes for me. That was the big, that was my big opportunity, and I'm so glad that I booked it, and it was an incredible experience.
And if you were to give yourself, say maybe 5 years ago when you were 8 or a bit younger, a little bit of advice to reject that kind of hate and that kind of no's, what would you say to somebody that is maybe the age now or yourself back about 5 years ago?
Yeah, I've never really thought about this, but I feel like the piece of advice that I'd give myself when I first started going into film and TV was kind of what I said before, but just to never, ever give up. Because there are definitely going to be times where you're so frustrated and so down on yourself, and there are going to be times where you're going to want to quit, but don't quit. Because there's going to be that one yes and that one time that you don't get rejected, and it's going to change your life, and you're going to feel so incredible, and you're going to have an incredible time just being on set and meeting these incredible people. So never, ever give up. That's definitely what I would tell myself if I could go back and give myself a piece of advice.
And that's awesome. And nowadays, obviously during this whole pandemic, you started and run a series on your social media called Quarantine, emphasized on the teen part. Obviously, it's spelled differently with actual like teenagers. Can you tell the teens around the world what it's about a little bit?
Yeah, so I started the series called Quarantine Questions. I felt like I just wanted to get some teens together from all around the country and just interview them about how they've been coping with COVID-19 and what their experiences have been. I started out the series with an entire episode about New York City, which is my former city. One of the people that I interviewed actually had COVID-19, and I asked everyone questions about what they've been doing to keep themselves busy, how COVID-19 has affected them, what they've been doing to prevent themselves from getting sick. And I just felt like teens' stories about COVID-19 haven't been told as much as they should be, because, I mean, there's so many teens right now that are missing their graduation, that are missing their prom, and missing out on their entire senior year, which I feel so bad for them, but I'm so happy to see all of the support that they've been given during this time, and how much opportunities that they've been given to kind of help their senior year be better and help their graduation and be a better experience for them. And I feel like teen stories should have been told a bit more. So I felt like it was my job to kind of tell the stories of what teens have been going through during COVID-19 and kind of document it. And I felt like it was really important, and I'm so glad that I've been doing that. And I've also met so many incredible people during Quarantine Questions, and I've made so many friends, and it's been really awesome.
And was that series something you just decided to do? Maybe it was to keep yourself from being bored, or was it something that you've always wanted to just talk to people about and answer their questions?
Yeah, I kind of, ever since COVID-19 had, I guess, gotten to the point where it's been really bad and people have had to stay home and all of that, I felt like I've really wanted to talk to people, because I've seen so many people kind of struggling with what to do during COVID-19 and like how to keep themselves busy and what to do to keep themselves creative. And I felt like this was something that I could do that could make an impact on other people, and that could also, I guess, keep people connected during this time. And I feel like it's so important to stay connected during COVID-19 and during quarantine, because it can be so easy to kind of feel alone during this time and feel like you don't have any friends that you can see, and it can feel so frustrating because you can't go out and hang out with your friends and you can't go out and see them. But I felt like this was a great way to get everyone together and talk to people and kind of figure out and kind of, I guess, talk about what they've been doing and kind of give some people advice on what they can do to keep themselves busy. And yeah, I felt like this was something that was really important to do, and I felt really happy to be able to do it.
That's awesome, and thank you so much for this amazing first episode of Inside the Mind.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I've had an incredible time. If you guys haven't already, please go watch The Big Show and give it a thumbs up on Netflix. I know that this is like a weird plug, but we're still waiting to hear about season 2. So I'm trying to tell everyone to watch the show and give it a thumbs up and tell all of their friends about it. So yeah, make sure to do that. And thank you guys so much.
But before we do end it, I forgot about season 2. Do you have any maybe word on season 2? Like when is that coming out?
Yeah, we don't even know about season 2 yet. Obviously, COVID-19 has kind of slowed down the process on figuring out about season 2 because they can't get together and meet about the numbers and stuff. But we're still waiting to hear. I actually went on a Zoom call a few weeks ago with the entire cast, and we just talked about everything. And Sho told us that he's not really sure yet, but obviously the entire cast we have our hopes up, which I guess we're really positive about it, and we're feeling good, but we're still not sure yet. But yeah, make sure to go watch the show just to help us get a second season.
All right, thank you so much.